Hello, everybody. Sorry for being late today. Plagued by a ton of technical issues. Live TV, always a pain in the butt. So, anyway, hope you guys are doing well. And let's jump in. I'm going to talk about kind of a confluence of things that's all happening at the same time. And that is kind of changes in the world, government, regulation, people stepping on each other's toes, people trying to catch up, you name it. Let's just jump in. This is all about DeFi and is it in its infancy? And somebody said, I think my mic wasn't loud enough. I just turned it up a bit, so hopefully it's okay. Let me know in the chat if it is, and jump in. Math, money, and freedom. No math in this at all, and it doesn't matter. Not inflation advice. So first thing we'll jump into is talk about the continued Bitcoin drainage. We lost 60,000 Bitcoin in a week, which is a pretty substantial number. And in fact, it was even more substantial, I think, just yesterday or Monday, I can't recall, but 15,000 left the exchanges in one single day. And that was the biggest, I think, this quarter for that to happen. So again, a lot of people are talking about this meggish turn. You know, over a week ago, I said a Bitcoin breakout was imminent. We're at that 42.5 level. Everything's looking good. Higher lows, getting into that compressed channel. But now I feel like I'm in an echo chamber because everywhere you go, everybody's bullish. And when everybody's bullish, I don't know what can happen, but literally everything does look extremely positive for now. And it looks like it's shaping up to be a good April. So let's jump in. There were a couple of things hanging over. We'll cover them today as well. So this is one I just want to talk about. And it was a super interesting report from a guy called Alkesh Shah. He's the head of digital asset strategy at Bank of America, and he spoke about a bunch of interesting different things. Let me make sure this. Yes, I think everything's working fine. But basically, he talked about, okay, for those of you who missed, like ourselves, the first 2.7 trillion, let's be there for the next 10x. So he kind of spoke about the crypto asset market going to $30 trillion from approximately 2.7 or 2 trillion for where it is now, depending on what day in which you measure. But one of the key stats that I thought was interesting to share, and this is, he did this a little while ago, but, the market value, 2.x trillion, just under 2 trillion right now, depending on how you measure it, 200 million crypto users, etc. Ignore some of the data, but the point is 100 altcoins now have over $1 billion in value, which is pretty substantial. Over a quarter of a trillion is locked up in decentralized finance, the big topic for today. It's way over nearly 200 billion now in stablecoin value. And stablecoins we'll be talking about as well in the very near future too. A lot of NFT volume and the Shivo success in El Salvador. A huge amount of wallets turned on in a matter of months compared to 20 years of the IMF trying to get people banked. They were not successful. So from that perspective, it's very interesting. But the real thing that I think is most important is he talks about layer 0 through layer 3. And for this $30 trillion ecosystem, he believes everybody should look at what he calls the semi-decentralized part. So think layer 2s, think layer 1s, think hybrid blockchains, think wallets, think custodians, think layer 3s, think centralized, decentralized services. So you need to kind of think about where you want to position yourself for this 10x that's coming. This 10x might take 5 years to get here, might take a year, we don't know. But either way, it will be a lot of upside. Now, talking about infancy, this big thank you to Sanjay for sending this in. This is another use your crypto for a zero cash out mortgage, home mortgage. Use your Bitcoin ETH as collateral for loans up to $20 million. So who is putting a lot of 20 million collateral on the line to buy an expensive house? Anyway, there are people out there that probably do that. I know there's multi-million-dollar homes selling in Miami right now for Bitcoin. Anyway, this is super interesting. It lets you keep your crypto holdings, keep your exposure. No need to sell your holdings. Now, a lot of questions might pop out of this. So this whole area is insane. It's attracting a lot of VC money. I think if you look at last December, crypto lending firm LEDN, LEDN, raised about $70 million. and it was going to be part of building out a Bitcoin-backed mortgage product. In January, we had Milo launched a waitlist for its Bitcoin-backed mortgages. Now we have Figure. Figure is the latest one, and they're talking specifically loans, as I said, up to $20 million, zero cash out refinance. That's typically when a person refinances their home for less than or the same amount that they still owe on their current mortgage principal. And this is plus the cost of closing on the new mortgage. Again, we'll see where it all goes, but this is going to become a very competitive space. And if I was a traditional bank, I'd be very, very nervous, because that is going to be disrupted hard and fast. And it's backed by Silicon Valley. But there's more. You have some other cool things happening right now. This is another ETP. Again, just thank you to Sanjay for sending it to me today. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're a bit delayed. But this is a partnership between FTX and Coinshares to deliver ETP in Europe with staking rewards. Think of ETP like an ETF, like a mutual fund that typically charges 2%, 2.5% management fee. But they're going to allow you to buy that asset, like Solana, have a share, zero fees, and get about 3% back as well. That's a game changer for the industry. Think about multi-asset, multi-crypto asset portfolios as well that have multiple staking parts. This is interesting. And again, more very innovative stuff happening between FTX, Solana, Coinshares, and others. Again, another example of this whole DeFi world that we're in. Now, also, remember, DeFi is still the Wild West. It's growing so fast. It's developing so fast. Things aren't fully baked when they're launched. So this one is Cashio. I never actually heard of Cashio, but it's a stable coin that was launched on Solana in November 2021. Yes, it was a Solana dApp. It did suffer an exploit due to a missing trusted root in the mint field on the Arrow account that was never validated. Again, people say, oh, it's Solana. No, it's a programming problem. And the attacker just created kind of fake accounts all the way down, then chained it all the way back up until they finally made a fake crate collateral tokens account to pull out $50 million real fast. So again, the Wild West is still there. Be very, very careful where you stake, where you play, where you mint, etc. And in terms of Solana, they have about 730 dApps running last time I counted, and another 750 in development right now. So it is a crazy, crazy space. So much is growing so fast, and mistakes have been made along the way. And by the way, exploits don't just happen on the Solana chain as well. So let's talk about other stuff that is kind of DeFi-esque a little bit. You know, the bond market is absolutely hurting. If you look at bond shares, typically safe haven assets during these rocky times, they normally do really well. But over the past quarter, they've all fallen by 10 to 15%, which is staggeringly bad. But this bond is kind of interesting. So there was a lot of excitement and hubbub about this over the last couple of weeks and over the last day or so that they were oversubscribed by about 50%, according to a Financial Times report. And El Salvador announced in November 2021 they were going to do this. And here you see the demand is exceeded the $1 billion target by $500 million, which is good. But then all of a sudden, this news came out. It's now delayed until September. This is from Tim Alper, and they just believe in El Salvador it's not a good time to issue bonds. We're ready to carry it, i.e. launch it, issue it, etc. But they're not going to do it now. They just believe it's not the moment. They'll have to wait a few more days, a few more months, a few more whatever, until they kind of make it all happen. So this is disappointing. I was excited for this to happen. It would have been a great boost to Bitcoin if you get another $500 million, $1 billion invested into the asset class. It would have been very good. But again, it's delayed probably till September. So we'll monitor this carefully. Now, there is some other news happening too. Panama. We spoke about them briefly last year, and are they going to be the next El Salvador? And Panama eyes Bitcoin and crypto to spark tech investment. Again, Panama is a big trading junction, Panama Canal, a lot of global traffic goes through there, but they want to specify that all natural and legal persons within Panama can use crypto assets as a legal means of payment in civil or commercial transactions. It doesn't sound like tender per se, like cash, but you could use it to make payments, etc. And they are very interested in adopting crypto, which they believe would spark a lot of local tech investment too. So we'll watch this space. And there's going to be a big news release at the Bitcoin conference as well. We don't know what it is, but we'll be monitoring that very carefully. Now, Thailand, opposite to Panama, are doing something different. Now, there's a lot of disappointment out there about they call the Thailand ban. But most importantly, it's not so bad. This only applies to crypto payments. Think of as payments like I just mentioned in Panama or quasi-legal tender. But it's people in Thailand can still use and trade digital assets at will. They're not banning them. And Thailand eased tax rules for crypto trading until 2023, I think, in a bid to advance the industry. So again, sometimes media is very alarmist and they say, oh, Thailand's banning Bitcoin. But if you looked at the Bitcoin chart, it didn't care. It did miss a beat and it's still floating around that 42K level, 42.5 right now. So again, it doesn't care. Now, in a little bit of Ethereum news, Ethereum underpins a huge amount of DeFi. This one here is from Fortune magazine, and I did notice as well that Fortune went from being absolutely anti-crypto to now being pro-crypto. They must have changed the editor, haven't been able to verify that. But they talk about the huge turning point. They're getting excited about the merge, and this could push Ether's market value ahead of Bitcoin. I don't think so, but there's a lot of stuff around that. And this article talks about the fact that a big feature for Ethereum moving to proof of stake it will reduce the energy used by about 99%. So the ESG narrative will no longer apply to Ethereum, and that'll attract a lot more money to the asset class. In fact, if you look at how the whales are playing right now with Ethereum, it looks very, very bullish. And Ethereum itself is just over $3,000. Nope, $2,999. It's $1 off of 3,000. It just fell a minute ago. That's weird. But anyway, the point is, Ethereum is looking and shaping up to be very strong going forward. Now, not all people like this whole move to proof of stake. You know, they do believe this merge will reduce fees. I don't think it'll reduce fees by that much. They think it'll make it a little bit faster. It'll make it faster by 5 transactions per second, go from 15 to 20. That's about it. They'll still require layer 2s to be able to pull off the story. But the people that really don't like it is they believe, I think it was Elise Killeen. She's the founder of a Bitcoin venture fund, I think called Stillmark. She argues that proof of stake is less secure and it'll make Ethereum more vulnerable to attacks. And also the proof of stake is very much like the traditional money system we have now, the Cantillon effect. Those that have the most staked have the most to benefit. So we'll see. I still prefer Bitcoin, but it'll be interesting to watch. And I still own Ethereum. See what happens there. Now, speaking of an Ethereum supposed killer, Cardano. Cardano's highly anticipated Hydra upgrade edges closer to launch, and here's what you should expect. This Hydra is their scaling solutions, the Cardano Layer 2, and it's currently Cardano runs about 1 TPS. Hydra is said to bring it to 1 million TPS by November of this year. If that does happen, and I've spoken about this a number of times, I will kind of eat my hat, and that would turn me into a kind of Super Bowl for Cardano. But we'll see what happens. But they are talking now a lot about this. Apparently it's running on the testnet and it works. I just would be flabbergasted if we go from 1 million or from 1 TPS to 1 million TPS in a couple of months. But that will really help them deal with a lot of the problems they're having with the dApps right now, the ability to scale, and because the many work streams are paralyzed with that congestion of 1 TPS, and it'll bring about much more commercial viability to many different dApps that are can be in the process of being built out there and solve all their traffic problems. So we'll be monitoring that very carefully, and I'm excited to learn more. And by the way, this is probably part of the reason for the big pump over the last 24 hours. I think Cardano went up 10%. Massive move, broke out of its descending channel over the last 7 months, so extremely positive looking. The rest of the layer ones have not budged yet. So we'll see. Normally there's a lag between those. Avalanche, Luna, Solana are all kind of flat right now. But we'll see. Actually, I think, let me see. Have a quick look, see where the motion is. Actually, no, a couple have started moving. Of course, we had the Loop Ring news today. But Cardano's the big winner. Solana's up 4.5%, and the rest are kind of flat. So that's it. This is back to a little bit of the how everything ties into DeFi as well. This was an interesting release. I tweeted about this today. The 5 or 6 people at the, I can't remember what it was called, some intelligence briefing panel around digital finance, and Jerome Powell was talking about the risks of digital finance, and he seems all of a sudden extremely worried about crypto, digital finance. In a speech, he said regulations were designed for traditional finance, not digital finance, and regulations must be updated and created in a brand new way. And he's very concerned about financial stability, investor protection, and illicit activity as related to cryptocurrency. Some of that stuff actually lays in the hands of the SEC within the US, and it's interesting that he is kind of almost stepping on the toes of Gary Gensler, who I was a little bit playful with earlier today. But anyway, a separate issue. But we'll see what happens here. This is kind of concerning. They also spoke about central bank digital currencies, digital dollars, and that they are coming. I think if you look at the global map, 65 to 70% of the world has already tested, implemented, or are planning to implement a central bank digital currency. This stuff is coming. And after what we saw in January, nobody wants a CBDC. But he spoke about it, and he spoke, if we do have one, we have to ensure privacy. How are they going to do that? So anyway, we'll see. I think all of this big move towards central bank digital currencies will further boost the need for cryptos, truly decentralized money, especially after what we saw in the first quarter of this year. So speaking of this, this is Christine Lagarde, and she says, cryptocurrencies are certainly being used to circumvent Russian sanctions. No, they're not. There might be a YouTuber in Moscow or a family trying to move a little bit of money just to put some bread on the table, but that's it. The oligarchs cannot use crypto for the large amounts of money they need to move to evade sanctions. So no, they're not. Why don't you go back to your money printing, which is a little bit of ECB money printing news. ECB printed 4.35x the money supply in 7 years, and over 2x in less than 2 years, which is staggering. They are brushing up against $9 trillion. And remember, that's euros. That's over 10 trillion US dollars. And it continues to grow. But remember this, everybody, the simple math lesson that I did lie, that says there'll be no math today. Well, there's this little formula from documenting Bitcoin, and that is fiat is your money divided by infinity, and Bitcoin is your money divided by 21 million. What's in your pocket? It's a pretty obvious no-brainer, especially when you look at the insane money printing that's happened over the last couple of months. Now, here we go. This is also kind of related to DeFi, traditional finance, centralized organizations, governments, and money, and everything else. This is the first stanza towards the PetroBitcoin. The ruble got a little bit stronger today against the dollar after Putin announced his gas switch, basically what he wants to do. And this has been on my mind for a long time during 2021, especially after conversations with people like Greg Foss and others. And this is the first stanza that I think where enemies of Russia or people that are kind of frenemies, etc., they're going to force them to pay for their gas in rubles to try and robustify the Russian currency, which is extremely weak right now. And that is crippling the economy. Apart from everything else that's happening, they've basically been cancelled all over the world. But that is very interesting. Next step will be maybe creating a pegged version of the ruble to the yuan, or maybe a digital yuan, or whatever else. And who knows what's going to come down the line. But either way, this is the first stanza in a move towards changing economies to become much more influential about which currencies they take or receive for their commodities, whether they be nickel, silver, gold, oil, gas, etc. And that's going to be very interesting to watch. Now, tiny bit of good news, but I'm a little bit pessimistic. This is from The Economist magazine. Ukraine's government is willing to make very big concessions to end the war. Many people think that peace is close. Some people say 2 weeks away, so others say 4 weeks away. And that's reflected in the markets as well. Markets are looking very, very strong, very bullish. And they don't like surprises. And if they weren't this confident, I don't think the markets would be this bullish. But my concern, is Russia negotiating in good faith? I don't know. I hope so. Fingers crossed. And they can figure this out real fast. And then that would mean we could all get back to having a great April, May, June, summer, etc. So with that, everybody, sorry for being a bit late. Technical problems that caused the delay, but we managed to get something out. So sorry for being so late, especially for our friends in Europe, etc. So hit the likes if you can, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Thank you.